Hey, if you're a realtor, a home buyer, or home seller, you can't afford not to listen to this episode of the Royal Palmcast. Our attorney friend Ned Hale talks all about fraud and how to avoid it. Next.
From the studios of the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association in Fort Myers, Florida, this is the Royal Palmcast, the show about people and things that realtors, home buyers, and home sellers care about. And now, here's your host, Jim Sanville.
Hello and welcome to the Royal Palmcast. I'm Jim Sanville, and we're coming to you from the production studios of the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association here in beautiful, sunny Fort Myers, Florida. What a beautiful day it is. And I'm here with Jerry Johnson. And Jerry is our producer. He's our board op. Is that what your title is, Jerry?
In regards to the podcast? That's exactly
Either
what I'm
that
doing.
or director of communication here. I can never remember which one it is, but as long as you're...
Too many titles.
Okay, you got it. So, Jerry, everything going all right today for you?
Today's starting out good. I hear the weather's going to get a little dark later, but no, it's starting off good. And we have a great guest today. I'm looking forward to this next segment.
We do. He's a return guest. Our guest today is Ned Hale, an attorney, real estate attorney here in Fort Myers. Ned was with us for our last show. We talked a lot about wire fraud, and Ned had some really, really good tips as to how to avoid that and how big a problem it is, that sort of thing. And we want to talk a little bit more about fraud, not so much the wire kind, but the other kind. So Ned has been practicing law here for 20 years.
I've been in town about 18 and a half, but before that, I practiced in West Palm Beach. So I've been 23 years of experience. You know, once you get much past 20, you don't start bragging about the years of experience, I've noticed.
Well, as long as you're paid for it.
Yeah.
You started out in Los Angeles, as I mentioned. You're from that area, went to school in Chicago, got your law degree, moved here to Florida in 2005. You started your law practice. And it's been going gangbusters. And Ned also teaches here some courses at the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association. So he's really well known to our members, and we're very pleased to have them. Welcome, Ned.
Thank you. I really appreciate it, Jim.
Yeah, my pleasure. So, Ned, let's talk a little bit about fraud. We talked about wire fraud and regular fraud. What's the difference between wire fraud and other fraud?
Well, wire fraud is just one specific type of fraud. There's lots of frauds. And any agent listening who may think that, well, I don't need to worry about fraud. That's what title insurance is for. And, you know, that's what banks have to worry about and title companies and attorneys have to worry about. I'm telling you, you're wrong. You, as an agent, can be dragged into any lawsuit when any fraud was involved, even if it wasn't your fault. So you will have a vested interest in making sure fraud does, and doing all you can to prevent fraud in your transaction. Let me also say that, guess what? Agents think, oh, I'll set, for my name, LLC to avoid liability. I'll do my name and then a PA. I'll incorporate my name to avoid liability. And that's what many of them do. Nothing wrong with that. FREC allows it. The law allows it. You're fooling yourself if you think that then prevents you from being sued personally. There's case law all over the place that says you are personally liable for your professional acts, no different from an attorney or a doctor or an accountant.
You cannot hide behind the shield of an LLC, is what I'm hearing.
No, sir.
Have you seen instances where this sort of thing has happened, where people have been punished?
Oh, absolutely. I tell people, you have these agents, when I teach these classes, one of my main themes is keeping them and their clients out of lawsuits because, look, the lawsuit is only one of the bad things that can happen to you if there's fraud in your transaction. You can also get fired from your brokerage. Here are some of the bad things that can happen. You can get fired from your brokerage. You will lose a lot of sleep. You can get a FREC complaint against you. You can be dropped by your E&O carrier if you have one. You can get a complaint filed against you at the association where
E&O?
5 of your peers, E&O.
What does that mean?
Errors and omissions.
Oh, okay.
Insurance carrier may drop you. And then again, of course, locally, I used to be the attorney for this association years ago, and I would sit in on all the hearings, local hearings, where somebody said that agent did bad. 5 of your peers sit there as this jury assessing what bad things you did or didn't do, and you can be disciplined by the association. Not a fun process. So lots of bad things can happen to you if there's any fraud in your transaction, even when you didn't do the fraud.
Even if you were duped
an innocent
yourself.
party, exactly.
You knew or should have known.
You should have known. You breached your duty to make sure this didn't happen. Look, lawyers can say anything they want when they sue you. They have to prove it later. But in the meantime, you're on the hot seat with a lawsuit on your desk.
So there truly is a fiduciary relationship between the realtor and client.
For all intents and purposes. Now, that word has different meanings to different people, but for all intents and purposes, and it depends on your brokerage. In other words, are you a single agent, transaction agent? We're not going to get into all of that. At the end of the day, the courts really don't care. Yes, for all intents and purposes, it's a fiduciary relationship.
You're on the hook, in other words. So there's no escaping that responsibility. You got to know what you're doing. You got to keep your nose clean, and you've got to be proactively root out any signs of fraud. Be on the lookout for all kinds of scams that are being played. What are the most common fraud scams that you've heard of or encountered?
Other than wire fraud, the biggest one that I have seen, heard of, defended people on was simple identity theft. In other words, usually here's how it happens. It usually happens with a vacant lot, or I've seen it happen with an old vacant home. Somebody who's the fraudster, he simply says he's the owner. And he may or may not get you some sort of a fake ID saying he's the owner. Could be anybody. A lot of times the ID, it might be copied a couple times and emailed to you, and or you think you've got the right owner. He emailed you his ID. But again, in a fax and an email and a copy, it's much harder to tell if something's fake versus real. They're not handing you a card with a little, magnetic strip on it like your Florida driver's license, right? So you have every reason to believe this is the owner. And guess what? Because it's a vacant lot or a vacant house, there's no one in the house to say, who said he owns it? I didn't list this property. I'm the real... I don't have my last name is not as common as Johnson, but that's got to be tough. Yeah. My stepdaughter was born with the last name Johnson, and she wanted to improve on a less common name when she got married, so she married a Smith.
Well, that's one approach.
It's a toss-up.
I live next to a vacant lot in Cape Coral, and I know that the owner is in Europe, and never seen him. I've heard of him, so I can see where that...
Same thing with me. I live next to a vacant lot, and the owner's in Europe.
It's relatively easy. Who's to stop someone from saying they're so-and-so from the Netherlands?
Right. So this happens
all the time.
How many times a year might this happen?
Again, no one admits it. No one will exactly tell you, but it happens probably at least 2 or 3 times a year in this county alone, and agents get duped. And so therefore, I won't write title insurance on vacant lots usually. If someone wants me to write title insurance on a vacant lot, boy, you can believe I'm going to really make sure I'm talking to the true owner. And they usually target European owners who may or may not have a strong command of English, and they just say that they're this person who's in Germany, and they give you, again, an ID or a passport or whatever. How are you to know? Now, you say, well, wait a minute, I didn't know. You didn't know. And ultimately, I've seen title insurance cover that. I've seen fraudulent transactions. They get a fake notary, and those aren't that hard to get. They say, and they give you, it's all done by email. You never talk to them on the phone. That's another thing. I try to make sure I talk to my customers on the phone so I can have something to confirm it's a real human being and not somebody in a foreign country with a limited command of English. So all of these little things you do, but guess what? Even though the title company usually will take the hit, number one, you won't get a commission on that. Ultimately, I've seen the title companies require, as part of the lawsuit that the agent was dragged into, of course, give back the commission.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah. So that's number one. Identity theft of sellers on vacant land or vacant homes. Make sure you get a good ID sometimes 2 forms of ID to make sure this seller is who they say they are. And be careful of solicitations online. I just got one the other day. I had an agent refer someone to me that he had never done business with before. It looked very suspicious. Oh, no, it's legit, the agent says. It's legit. Let me tell you something. It was a bunch of vacant lots. This guy is saying, and he did not sound like he was a native English speaker in this email. He didn't leave a phone number, but I get this email saying, help me. My mother inherited these, and then she deeded them over to me, and now I want to sell them. I said, I do not want to fool with that. It's too risky. I'm not going to make enough money to take on that risk. So I just had one literally the other day. Vacant Lehigh lots. Vacant. The big scam was vacant waterfront Cape Coral lots because the dollar amounts were bigger. Still are.
Yeah, that's like the one next to me. So I have to keep an eye on that. By the way, we see various neighborhood people showing up there and fishing nightly. Sometimes they make an evening out of it, and the pickup trucks and the beer shows up and gets a little. Is there any law that can keep that at bay? I'm asking this selfishly. It's a bit of a problem.
I understand. I can understand the frustration. Yeah, I can understand the frustration. At the end of the day, they're trespassing. But at the end of the day, the owner's not there to tell them not to. So what I recommend literally is nothing wrong, and don't be ashamed. Call the cops and see if the cops have any idea of what you can do. But you're not the owner, and I think the cops are going to say, you're not the owner, so you can't accuse them of trespassing.
And for all I know, they have permission from the owner.
Well, exactly. Or bogus permission.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I guess I'll just join in the parties then, I guess.
Crack a beer.
Next time that happens, and wet a line, see what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. What other kind of fraud is happening around here, Ned?
We're also seeing, for example, fraudulent, what we occasionally see, not that often, but again, it can rear its ugly head, whereby somebody will buy a piece of property with a mortgage, and then what they'll do is, and they'll either in a fake name or their name, right? What they'll do is they'll sign a fraudulent satisfaction of mortgage. In other words, they'll buy a piece of property with a loan and then fake the satisfaction of mortgage to make it look like the loan is paid off. And then they turn around and sell it. The title company's on the hook for that. But again, who is this person? It's usually, again, not the true owner that does this. It's a fake satisfaction. We're also seeing, as I talked about, some people who they'll find out that an owner is dead, of a piece of property, and it's just sitting there vacant. Another opportunity, it's sitting there vacant. Whoever owned it is dead, and they're hoping that no family members have shown up or anything like that, and then they claim to be the heirs, and they come up with a bogus will. They hire an attorney to do a probate, and then they want the money. So these are some of the things that we're also seeing. Believe me, Jim, title insurance covers most of this, and that's why you got to have title insurance. But at the end of the day, just because you think title insurance covers it doesn't mean you're not going to be dragged into a lawsuit also, because, again, they'll pull the agent in there too. So the scam, again, it's whack-a-mole. You don't know where they're always going to come from, and they're always a little different each time. But I will tell you this, the majority of them originate in an email. Another scam we've seen all the time, on and off, is fake cashier's checks. Here's how that scam goes, and it's less for an agent than it is for a title company. So here's the scam, and I used to get emails like this all the time. I ignored them all. So here's the deal. They say to an attorney, right, or a title company, hey, I want to buy a piece of property, right? But here's my deposit, and here's the contract, right? Then what they do is they have a fake cashier's check for, say, a deposit of $50,000. They send it to the lawyer or the title company. It's bogus, but the lawyer doesn't know that. He thinks it's a good cashier's check, right? Then what they do, 2 days later, they say, you know what? I've changed my mind. I don't want the property. Go ahead and refund me my deposit. Wire the funds back to me. And of course, it's a fake cashier's check, so there's no money there. So the attorney, and they target title companies and attorneys that have money in their trust accounts to cover that. So then that's one of the oldest tricks in the book. It shows up a lot. Now, that doesn't involve agents as much, but there's an example of the fake cashier's check, right? I once got one literally in the mail. I never even asked for it. This is years ago, and I've not told many people this story. I never asked for it, but I got a fake cashier's check in the mail. I didn't even know what it was for, and it was payable to my law firm. I didn't know what it was for. It's probably some bogus email I had gotten that I had deleted. Get this. This is what they did to try to make it look real, to make it look like there was a watermark. There was no watermark. I turned over the check, and there was like some sort of stamp put in a child's toy, like invisible ink. You know invisible ink? You can still kind of see it.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like a toy. So It's remarkable. Wherever there's money, there's going to be fraud. So you really have to be careful. The oldest of admonitions of a parent to his child is, be very careful about money.
That's right. And buyer beware. This is really interesting stuff. It must be easy to get jaded if you're in this world all the time and think less of human nature, right?
Yeah, it is. I used to tell people I'm kind of like a cop. I've seen so many bad things that people have done to each other. And I'm not disparaging cops. I'm saying how many cops are. They get jaded.
Right.
Okay? I'm like a cop in that respect. Sometimes you just see the worst in people and you just think everybody's lying and everybody's a fraud, because it's almost like building up antibodies to it all, because you just constantly have to be on the watch.
Yeah, if you're on the front lines of that battle, it would wear down on you, I would think. We're talking today with Ned Hale. Ned's a local real estate attorney here in Fort Myers, Florida. You're listening to the Royal Palmcast here from RPCRA, the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association. I know from the music in my ears we have a very important message coming up. We're going to take a brief break from that and come right back with Ned Hale.
Hi, this is Bob Wade, and you're listening to the Royal Palmcast.
Hi, I'm Angela Foster, and you're listening to the Royal Palmcast.
This is Cecilia Sculthorpe, and you're listening to the Royal Palmcast.
I'm going to make you a star.
I'm ready. Where do I sign?
Well, before you sign on the dotted line, let me tell you more.
Listening?
The Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association is looking for members who think they have what it takes to participate in video segments or other media production for the association, upcoming events, classes, special projects, things like that.
I've been told I have a certain star quality.
I believe it.
Yeah, so what's my next step?
It's easy. Just send an email to shows@rpcra.org with the word audition in the subject line. Simple. We'll reply with all the details, requirements, and forms you need for your audition. We'll review your information and let you know if you fit the part. But keep in mind, this is a real commitment. Writing, rehearsing, you gotta know your lines, recording dates, and real deadlines. And not everyone can be a star, you know. We're looking for actual writing and video samples. So email us today for your audition.
Already doing it. Is green screen one word or two?
You do have a certain quality. Ambition.
Can't talk now. Gotta get ready for my screen test. How much does this pay anyway? Asking for a friend.
Well, it's strictly a volunteer gig, but it's a great opportunity to get your name out there and may even help you build your business.
That'll work. For my friend.
Yeah. Okay.
If you have what it takes to appear on camera in our productions, we want to hear from you. Any member in good standing who's interested and can meet the commitments and deadlines is encouraged to apply. Go to the RPCRA Facebook page or watch your member weekly update for more information. We'll follow up with you and may even schedule an on-camera audition in our Winkler Avenue studio. We will also ask to see or hear samples of your past work on camera, microphone, or in print.
In Lee County real estate news today, single-family home sales are up 11%.
Oh, brother. We hope you're enjoying the Royal Palmcast, a production of the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association, your association for realtor services, resources, and education. We are committed to the success of all of our members and advocate for property rights, both residential and commercial, as we continue our efforts in participating and influencing public policy on local, state, and national levels. Your association also leads the way with community involvement, member engagement, promoting the use of local, state, and national benefits, and more, all of which helps provide a superior Realtor experience. The staff of RPCRA is here for you. Visit our website at rpcra.org and make sure to find us on Facebook, Twitter, and other social media for valuable information on upcoming classes and events.
We are back here on the Royal Palmcast from the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association in Fort Myers, Florida. Our guest today is Ned Hale. Ned is an attorney here in Fort Myers, Florida, specializes in real estate and other matters. And we're talking today about fraud. Really interesting stuff. And I hope if you're listening to this and you're a realtor, you let some of the other realtors know this is really valuable information that can keep you out of hot water. So, very good stuff. Ned, let's talk more about fraud. I know it's a big topic, lots to discuss, but give me some more ideas about what kind of stuff's happening and how to prevent it.
Another thing you need to be real careful for is a lot of times, look, there's an old saying, the devil doesn't approach you with horns and a trident. He's going to try to, disguise himself. So you need to watch out if you have a buyer that you suspect that could be engaging in mortgage fraud. By that I mean fake income, fake documentation, all of that, with an intent to, be able to get title to the property, live there for quite a while, and then never pay. We were seeing that. In other words, we were seeing that more in the run-up. Here's how the scam works. And you don't want to participate in it because you could be dragged into something. It could be anything, where you had people who were legitimate, real people, okay? But somebody told them, hey, look, kind of lie on these documents and fake this and fake that. Go get a mortgage based on those fraudulent documents, right? You could have unwittingly been their realtor on that. We saw this more in 05, 06, but it'll come back. It always does, in a slightly different way. Then what they do is they never made a single payment, maybe made one payment, and because and they'd eventually go into foreclosure, fine, they don't care. Go into foreclosure, they live there free for a year or 2 years because all the foreclosures were backed up. We saw that, okay? We've also seen bogus appraisals, okay? Fake appraisals to overappraise a property so that it isn't really worth what they're saying it's worth, and we sometimes see that in refinances. In other words, I know agents aren't involved in refinances, but remember, follow the money, as Willie Sutton did, and as Willie Sutton talked about, rather. I believe that was from Watergate, follow the money, right? Is what Woodward and Bernstein were told by their source. So bogus appraisals to do what? To get equity out of the property, and bogus equity out of the property. In other words, an appraiser will say that it's worth $400, it's only worth $300. The owner gets money based on the $400 and then walks. Mm-hmm. So really, wherever there's money, there can be fraud. That is the whole purpose of title insurance. There could be forged deeds in the chain of title. There could be liens in the chain of title. I mean, you don't know. Every time they identify fraud, there's another one. The real estate business is notorious for there being fraud because of the dollar amounts involved, and because the public records. Anybody with an internet connection can find out who owns anything, and then say they're that person and see where they live. So again, we always go back to the identity theft. It usually involves some kind of identity theft, one type or another. But again, there's other less common ways. The key thing is, folks, moving forward, if something doesn't smell good, it's probably garbage. Number 2, you need to go get opinions from your broker, your peers, and your attorney. Hey, what's wrong? Does this not seem right? Okay, because sometimes an agent will unwittingly get involved in all of this. They don't know either. Some scam, some fraud. Again, you can't even enumerate them all. And then you get dragged into it, and before you know it, it's too late. And I've seen good, smart agents get caught up in this stuff, and then they start participating in it because they have no way out. I mean, that's common in white-collar crime. So all I can really say is you need to make sure. Warren Buffett is famous for a lot of things, and one thing he said, and I can't get it out of my mind, he says it can take 20 years to build a reputation. and 20 seconds to lose it. You really, really have to make sure that if something doesn't smell good, get opinions. I talk to other attorneys to get opinions on stuff. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes you're in the trees. You need someone who can see the forest. And, hey, wait a minute, I don't know about that, and maybe you just shouldn't get involved, that sort of thing. So I think that that really, the main thing to be aware of is that you're not aware of the next one, and there's going to be another one that hits, just like another pandemic, it's all cyclical.
Now, this is normally the part of the program where we do the lightning round. We did that with Ned on our last show, so I would urge you to go back and listen to the previous episode with Ned about wire fraud, and you will hear his surprising answers to some of these lightning round questions. But I think it's worth a plug for the movie that you mentioned, The Lincoln Lawyer.
The Lincoln Lawyer, Matthew McConaughey, I don't know if it came out within the last 10 years, and he plays a criminal defense lawyer who just gets all wrapped up. He drives he has a chauffeur driving him in a Lincoln, and it's a play on Abraham Lincoln, the lawyer, and the Lincoln that he drives, and I just thought it was a great movie. He's a great actor.
Yeah, he's
and
good.
I think that's his finest performance, because I understand that he, if he hadn't been an actor, he said he would have gone and been a lawyer. So it's like he found his calling in that movie. He's a great actor.
Hey, Ned, we have only about a minute left. I wonder if you could let folks know how to reach you if they want to reach out to you and contact you.
Yeah, sure. It's ned@halelawgroup.com. Is my email. halelawgroup.com is my website address, or you can just type in Ned Hale into Google, Ned Hale, Fort Myers attorney, and I'm about the first 10 or so on the first page if you give that specific of information to Google. And I'm just out there trying to help people with real estate issues, trying to help people stay out of trouble. And I try to do it at reasonably priced as well. I tell everybody it's not that hard to find a good lawyer in Fort Myers. The hard part is finding a good lawyer that's not going to overcharge you.
Good advice. So we need to say goodbye here. We want to thank everyone here at the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association for supporting us here. And I would love to have you listen to our other podcast, Realtor Riff Rap, with host Nick Bagelis. That is a monthly podcast for right now, and Nick does a great job with that. Also touches on topics to do with real estate. And our YouTube program, Realtor's Corner, with Nick Bagelis and Joanna Rao. And we are going to say goodbye now, but I want to give a quick tease to our next show. We're going to talk with Ned again, maybe not the next show, but somewhere down the road soon, about homesteading and homestead, what that means and where it applies and what are the rules. There's a lot of confusion around that stuff, and we've got a great resource here in Ned to explain the details. So we'll look forward to that. And Jerry Johnson, thank you so much for all you've done.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
All right. Wonderful to be with you folks, and we'll look forward to being with you again next time.
Thanks for listening to the Royal Palmcast. Tune in again for more episodes, and make sure to check out our sister podcast, Realtor Riff Rap, and our video news show, Realtor's Corner, which can be found on the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association Facebook page and YouTube channel. Sponsorship opportunities for these programs and more coming soon. So stay connected with RPCRA and stay tuned. This has been a production of the Royal Palm Coast Realtor Association.